ఒకటి కొన్ని క్వశ్చన్స్ ఇచ్చి ఆన్సర్స్ ఎలా రాయాలి. ప్రతిరోజు క్వశ్చన్ ఇస్తాను, ఆన్సర్ రాపిస్తాను. ఎవ్రీ డే ఐ విల్ గివ్ ఏ క్వశ్చన్ అండ్ మేక్ యూ టు రైట్ ఆన్సర్ హియర్ అండ్ ఐ విల్ టెల్ ద ఆన్సర్. దానికి నేను ఆన్సర్ చెప్తాను, మీ చేత చెప్పించి నేను చెప్తాను. మీరేం పాయింట్స్ రాసారు చెప్పి దాని నేషన్ చెప్తాను. అండ్ ఒక్కొక్క ఆన్సర్లో ఏమేమి కంటెంట్ రావాలి, ఒక్కొక్క ఆన్సర్లో ఏమేమి ఉండాలి, అది కూడా నేను డిస్కస్ చేస్తాను. ఈచ్ ఆన్సర్ ఎలాంటి కంటెంట్ ఉండాలి, ఎలాంటివి రాయాలి, ఆల్ దిస్ థింగ్స్ విల్ డిస్కస్. అది సో మెయిన్స్ ఎగ్జామ్ ఎలా ప్రిపేర్ అవ్వాలి, ఐ విల్ టెల్ యూ హౌ ఐ హ్యావ్ ప్రిపేర్డ్. అది కూడా మీకు ఇప్పుడు చెప్తాను. అంటే ఏమేమి కంటెంట్ డెవలప్ చేశాను, వాట్ ఈస్ ద కంటెంట్ ఐ హ్యావ్ గివెన్ టు ద మెయిన్స్ అండ్ వాట్ టైప్ ఆఫ్ ఆన్సర్స్ ఐ రోట్ అండ్ హౌ టు కన్స్ట్రక్ట్ an answer and how to structurize an answer. This is very important, how to construct and how to structurize an answer. First thing, in UPSC the trend is flow charts, maps and diagrams. First thing, flow charts, maps and diagrams. Even there are people who started drawing some diagrams in ethics paper. Even in ethics there are people who started drawing some diagrams in ethics. For example, in ethics paper, if there is a question on good governance, what do you mean by good governance and what are the ingredients of good governance, what is the difference between good governance and ethical governance. In 2016 this question is asked, what is the difference between good governance and ethical governance. On the side, in one side of the answer sheet, you can draw a small spoke diagram with good governance, representing good governance. So it will fetch you 2 marks more. The diagram you can finish in 2 minutes, but you will get 2 marks more in the diagram. So good governance, you have to draw a small spoke, hub and spoke diagram so that you can easily make an answer. For example, draw a small circle, inside that write good governance. Small circle, inside that write good governance and give arrows to it, 7 arrows: accountable, transparent, responsive, equitable, effective, efficient, rule of law, participatory approach, consensus oriented. So a small circle, inside good governance, give spokes, give 7 spokes. One spoke is accountable, one spoke is accountable, second spoke transparent, third responsive, fourth equitable and inclusive, fourth is equitable and inclusive, fifth effective, efficient, sixth rule of law, seventh participatory approach, eighth consensus oriented. So like this you will get spokes like this. Okay, you have to draw spokes like this when you want to write an answer on good governance. This chart if you draw in your notebook and keep it with you, useful in ethics, useful in polity, useful in essay. Ethics, essay and polity. Okay, that is how you have to write many answers. I will keep on telling what type of diagrams you can draw in each and every answer. This is one type. And second thing, there should be a data point. A separate notebook should be maintained for data, important data. See, yesterday there is a discussion about anti-trafficking bill. Recently a bill was introduced with respect to stringent punishments to the trafficking and the people who are involved in trafficking and the people who transmitted AIDS through human trafficking, prostitution, all those things. 77% of the women, 77% of the women, trafficked women who went to the rehabilitation homes, after their release from rehabilitation homes, again went for prostitution. They again went for prostitution. This 77% is data. Mains answers almost everyone write in a similar way, but 77% is data. This is very important. This is very important. Next important thing in mains is, whenever you are writing a particular answer, with respect to that, any policy is there, any act is there, any constitutional provision, all these things you should add. Any policy, any act, any constitutional provision. Particularly in constitution, articles and cases. Articles and cases. Those who wrote 2017 mains exam, they all know they have given a case on right to privacy judgment. Puttaswamy versus Union of India. Right to privacy judgment, Puttaswamy versus Union of India. In 2016, they have directly given a case, IR Coelho versus Union of India. IR Coelho case. UPSC right now is focusing on cases, the judgments. So, triple talaq judgment, uniform civil code, This might be a question for you this year. You may get a question on Article 44, Uniform Civil Code. Now, I will tell you a question and an answer. Do you think Uniform Civil Code is practical or feasible in India? Do you think Uniform Civil Code is practical in India, or is it the time for India to have Uniform Civil Code? Is the time ripen in India to have Uniform Civil Code? Are we ready to have Uniform Civil Code? Such type of questions might appear. For this, I will give an answer. Article 44 of the Indian Constitution deals with Uniform Civil Code. In India, criminal laws and civil laws are common to all people, but personal laws or family laws differ from religion to religion. Personal laws or family laws differ from religion to religion. That is, for Hindu there is one law, for Christian, for Muslim there are different laws. There is an urgent need for Uniform Civil Code in India. Except in Goa and Puducherry, we don't have Uniform Civil Code. Except in Goa and Puducherry, we don't have Uniform Civil Code. But the problem is, the real challenge here is, orthodox sections, conservative sections in all communities are saying that, Uniform Civil Code will affect their religious practices, will affect their freedom of religion. Uniform Civil Code will affect their religious practices, will challenge their religious freedom. Article 25 to 28 of the Indian Constitution gives freedom of religion. Article 25 to 28 of the Indian Constitution gives freedom of religion. Freedom of religion is a fundamental right. And Article 25 says, subject to public order, morality and health. Article 25 says, subject to public order, morality and health, every person have the freedom of religion in India. The question is here, no fundamental right is absolute. Freedom of religion is also not absolute. For maintenance of basic human rights in a civilized society, freedom of religion can be curtailed. Certain religious practices can be curtailed. There can be a common regulation for a religion. There can be a common regulation for religions. That can happen in a civilized society. That means, as a civil aspirant, you are thinking in a proper way, progressive way and a civilized way. But again you are right. In India, uniform civil code at a single stroke cannot be imposed, cannot be established, because the Indian society is not yet ready to accept this. We have to bring secular fabric, we have to enhance secular views, we have to make the education and awareness in the downtrodden sections in all the communities and bring awareness, education and development in all the communities. Then only India will be ready for uniform civil code. Uniform civil code at a single stroke cannot be introduced, but step by step, phase by phase, we can head towards uniform civil code, and finally we can bring a uniform civil code in India. As you all know, India is a truly secular country. Many important religions flourished in India. After writing this, you have to end this with a statement. As Swami Vivekananda told, all religions are like different streams. All religions are like various streams going and merging in the ocean called humanity. All religions are like various streams merging in the ocean called humanity. See, when I am writing my mains, my introductions and conclusions, most of them are with some quotes. I have not given separate conclusion. I have given my conclusion, my opinion on uniform civil code and religion through Vivekananda. So I have done similar things. For example, when I wrote an answer on health, I wrote a few years back, as Mahatma Gandhi said, it is not the pieces of gold or pieces of silver, it is the health which is a real wealth. It is not the pieces of gold or pieces of silver, it is the health which is a real wealth. So you can start your health article with this Mahatma Gandhi's quote, or as I told you, uniform civil code, Vivekananda's quote, or you can also start with B.R. Ambedkar's quote. I likes the religion, I likes that religion which teaches liberty, equality and fraternity. I like that religion which teaches liberty, equality and fraternity. If you learn these quotes, you can write good essay, good ethics, good GS answers, easy to manage answers. So that can happen with you. That I'll keep on telling. I like that religion which teaches liberty, equality and fraternity. At the end you can write Swami Vivekananda's quote. So this is how you have to manage. For example, you are writing an essay or GS answer on education. You can start with Nelson Mandela's quote. Education is the most powerful weapon through which you can change the world. Education is the most powerful weapon through which you can change the world. Or you can also write one more quote. Education is a manifestation of perfection which already existed in man. Swami Vivekananda. Education is a manifestation of perfection which already existed in man. Swami Vivekananda. Like that, if you can evolve. This time I expect a question on Higher Education Commission. UGC will cabinet approved to scrap out University Grads Commission, and a question might come on Higher Education Commission. So when you are writing an introduction to education, you should start with some quote, one single sentence. It looks very good. Okay, education is a manifestation of perfection which already existed in man. Education is a manifestation of perfection which already existed in man. Like that you have to take a lead or end with a lead. That you have to do. Coming to questions and answers. The most probable questions this time we can expect. Some of the questions, why they are important, what type of questions we can expect this time in GS basically. We will start with a question. First I will give 4 or 5 model questions. 4 or 5 model questions. For example, in GS4 ethics, where most of the students got very less marks last year, I will give a model question. How emotional intelligence is useful in administration? Simple question. How emotional intelligence is useful in administration And what are the challenges? And what are the challenges? How emotional intelligence is useful in administration, and what are the challenges in implementing emotional intelligence in administration? What are the challenges in implementing emotional intelligence in administration? Okay, this is one question. Next question, the basic structure theory. The basic structure theory in the Indian Constitution. In the Indian Constitution is dynamic but not static. The basic structure theory in the Indian Constitution is dynamic but not static. Next question, the recent trade wars. There will be a question on this. The recent trade wars. The recent trade wars. How the recent trade wars are going to affect? How the recent trade wars are going to affect? AFFECT, affect the global trade. How the recent trade wars are going to affect the global trade? See, in history, every time they are passionate to give a question on personality and personality differences. In 2016, they have given a question on Mahatma Gandhi and Subash Chandra Bose. In 2016, they have given a question to compare and contrast Mahatma Gandhi and Subash Chandra Bose. In 2003 or 4, I remember, they have given a question on compare and contrast Jawaharlal Nehru with Jinnah. Jawaharlal Nehru with Jinnah. This time you will get a question, Gandhi or Tagore, or Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and Nehru. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and Nehru. Similar questions might come in the history. Or non-cooperation movement affects difference between non-cooperation and civil disobedience movement, or and what led to partition of India, or cabinet mission plan. Some sort of question might come in the history question paper. So I will tell you how I have handled a question, Mahatma Gandhi versus Subash Chandra Bose. What did I write for that question? That I will explain. Kindly listen. Mahatma Gandhi and Subash Chandra Bose both are famous personalities in Indian freedom struggle. Gandhi believed in non-violence. Subash Chandra Bose took up arms. Gandhi wanted to bring independence through mass movements within India and inside India. Subash Chandra Bose even approached foreign powers to gain independence to India. When Gandhi launched Quit India movement, Subash Chandra Bose have not come down and strongly supported Gandhi. Here, Gandhi versus Subash Chandra Bose. It was Subash Chandra Bose who called Gandhi father of nation, though it is not official. It's not official. Both Gandhi and Subash Chandra Bose appreciated each other's efforts. And there was a letter written by Mahatma Gandhi to the Rajkumari Amrit Kaur. There is a letter written by Mahatma Gandhi to the Rajkumari Amrit Kaur stating that Subash Chandra Bose is a patriot, but a misguided patriot. Subash Chandra Bose is a patriot, but a misguided patriot. I have ended my answer by writing this. Subash Chandra Bose is a patriot, but a misguided patriot, Gandhi said. But Subash Chandra Bose said, you give me blood, I am going to give you freedom. You give me blood, I will give you freedom. Gandhi said, peacefully we should march for Swaraj. And Gandhi's basic principles were Ahimsa and Satya. Ahimsa and Satya. And both died for the cause of the nation. And both believed in emancipation of India. So this is how you have to build up your answer. See, everybody will write Gandhi believed in non-violence, Subash Chandra Bose relied on violence, and Gandhi started his introductions from within, and Subash Chandra Bose started his campaign Azad Hindu Fauj, Indian National Army, and how he founded all these things. All these things we can add. But the plus point here is, I wrote a sentence. Gandhi wrote to Rajkumari Amrut Kaur that Subash Chandra Bose is a patriot, but a misguided patriot. Subash Chandra Bose is a patriot, but a misguided patriot. So this is how you have to compare and contrast, and never overestimate mains answers. Don't think that we have to write flamboyant, very big words, nothing. And mains answer will be a size of Hindu paper letter to the editor, small, 100, 150, 200, and don't expect too much, and you will have a doubt whether we have to write in paragraphs or points. According to the question, you can write paragraphs or points. See, at that time there are 20 questions. Out of 20, around 10 I wrote in paragraphs, around 10 I wrote in points. There is no hard and fast rule, but according to the question, we can add points and paragraphs. For this Gandhi and Subash Chandra Bose question, half of the question I have divided, and half of the question I wrote 2 paragraphs and ended. I wrote small answers. It's not that I filled all the gap, because my writing is very big. But the answers are small. So I write similar answers to Gandhi and Subash Chandra Bose. How to compare and contrast. Now, Madhuri and Maurya. This year Maurya got 100 rank, Madhuri got 144 rank. I invited them to tell their tips, what are the tips they have followed in answer writing. So for 10 minutes, Maurya and Madhuri will speak first. We will invite Maurya. She will speak how to write answers. Okay.
And I've got 100th rank in the Civil Service 2017 exam. I would like to discuss about essay paper, because essay in 2014 and 15 I have written 3 main exam, and 2014 essay I've got 111, and 2015 I've got 111. 2016 I haven't cleared prelims, so in 2017 I got 153. I used to get less marks in essay as well as my optional public administration, so I wanted to improve these essay marks. What I have done to improve these essay marks is that, first, initial attempts I haven't written enough tests. I have written maybe 3 to 4 tests. This attempt I have written 10 complete comprehensive tests in some different institutes. And what I also have done is that at home I used to prepare my notes or anything whatever I read, keeping in mind essay paper. Like, for example, if there is a topic about socialism, I used to think, if there is a topic on socialism, any topic, what points will I be having while writing exam. So because of this practice as well as that mind practice, I had enough points. In 2017 exam, what I have written is that one is about farming. This is farming has The question is, farming has lost the ability to be a source of subsistence for majority of farmers in India. I have chosen this topic because I have prepared enough on farming, and this was expected too. So on this topic, what I have written is that I have prepared one anecdote. I have told about my friend, one of my close friends, whose father is a farmer, but his father didn't allow him to choose BSc agriculture. That is when he told about his problems, and I have written something about that, and I kept a question mark. If a farmer's son is not allowed to choose BSc agriculture, who else will choose this profession? I may not remember exact phrase, but I have kept something around this. And then I have written why farming has lost its subsistence, like from colonial period and then independence, and what our government has done, what are the mistakes we have done, and what government is doing now, what other measures we require. Like in the conclusion I have mentioned about Swaminathan report and what he recommended. And while concluding, I have used this phrase, Gandhiji's phrase, like wiping every tear from every eye. This should be the goal of our government, wiping every tear from every farmer's eye. And that's it. And for the next essay, social media is inherently a selfish medium. When I have written these 10 essays, social media was included in this. Social media, because of that, I've taken almost 1 hour 40 minutes for first essay, and for second essay I could write because I had all well prepared points for this social media one. So for social media also I've written same anecdote which I've written in my test paper, like about Radha and Swati, both friends, how Radha used social media for her benefit, how Swati couldn't benefit from it, and she ruined her life. That's what I've written. And I've written like social media, what are the benefits of social media and how you can misuse it, what will be the disadvantages. And also while writing this, you have to, I don't know, there can be different approach too, but what I have adopted is that I used to divide points in like social, economic, political. There can be an acronym as well, like PESTEL, like political, economy, social, technological, administrative, legal. You can add more ethical and global, international example also. What I realized in these 3 years is that if you write different points in different aspects, you can score well. So that is what, and I have done this in the body. Like introduction, I have given anecdote for both papers, and for conclusion, for this essay, I have again taken Radha and Swati, and I have told like this is a double-edged sword. It can be used both ways, and it is up to our conscience how we use it. This is what I have done for essay, and what I can tell for essay is that you have to practice more. If you practice more, it will be easy. You can rectify your own mistakes. So it's better you practice tests at home and also write tests in some other institutes. So that will help. And for GS, Madhuri will speak. What I have done for GS is that I used to get good scores in 2014 and 15, like one of the highest scores, but not in 17, because I haven't put enough effort and time also on GS, because I had taken almost 4 months for my optional public administration and essay. That's the reason this time only like for 10 or 15 days I have studied general studies. I mean, I was in touch with news, but not the static part. I have done for prelims one more thing, 2017 prelims I scored well, according to me. I scored 141.33, and I have done GS very well at this point of time. That's the reason I couldn't even revise well for mains, but I remembered whatever I have studied. That helped me. And for general studies, you have to have content more than structure. Structure also matters, but you have to have content. You have to give as many points as possible. That is when you will get good marks. And one more thing, if there are 20 questions, don't write monotonously every question paragraph or point format. Choose as per the question. For some questions which requires analysis, you write in paragraph. For some questions which requires like features, when you have to enlist something, write in point format. And for some questions, like if there is a question on good governance, I would write like this: good governance and what will be the features of good governance. It's like diagram format. So you can use for something, last year in polity there was one question about civil servant something. So reforms, for reforms also I have done like how, what civil servants, I don't remember the question exactly, I have written how they benefited the country and what can be the disadvantages and what reforms government is doing. It can save your time also for some other questions. So analysis based, you have to write analysis, point format you can use, and you can also use headings, subheadings, which helps for general studies. And for ethics paper you have to practice more. Take previous year's question papers. For in 2015 I have got ethics 115. This was like first highest was 119, second highest was 115 then. This year I got only 88 marks. Because I haven't put that much effort, and I didn't write that paper also well. This year paper was challenging. You didn't get enough time to complete the paper. I could complete the paper because what I have done this year was, before exam I have taken 2013, 14, 2 years papers, and I put like time 1.5 hours for case studies, and I've practiced that in time. That is what benefited me. You can do more tests outside, you will get like this case studies also, Lukman 100 case studies or ma'am, whatever ma'am gives, that will help, and take previous year's question papers and practice that also. So ultimately, like, you have to gain knowledge. Don't gain so much that you can't even put on the paper. Enough knowledge and put that on paper. For that you need to complete the paper and also practice more. So Madhuri will take over. Yeah. Yeah, of course you need to explain. For features you will not explain. You just put like good governance has this 8 features or the following features, and keep those features like transparency, accountability, responsibility, responsiveness, rule of law, all these things, and then write what is the rest part of the question. And one more thing I remember, if there is a question, understand completely. Take in parts and understand. They might ask 3 parts or 3 things in a single question. If you don't address one part also, you will not be awarded, howsoever beautiful your answer is. So you have to understand every part and address that. So that is important. Any more?
Perspective also, do we need to mention that, like, these are the political scenarios, the economic scenarios, like that, or normally we can write?
It's your wish. Some people, they write as political and they write down, but it's better not to mention that. It's better write in a flow. What do you mean by flow? If you're writing next paragraph economic and this is political, link political and economy, this paragraph only. So there you'll have some continuity. That will help.
Can you please throw some light on optional public administration?
Optional. It's like, my tryst with the optional is very, I've put almost 4.5 months. We had 4.5 months, 4 months on optional only. Last 1 year when I didn't clear 2016 prelims, 16 December, from December I have taken 1 coaching, then again 1 coaching. I was taking continuously optional because I used to get very less. It's like 180, 185, 185. Irony is that I have got similar marks like for essay and for optional.
How much you got in 2017?
Yeah, 295.
How did you jump? I mean, any test series like that?
Yeah, for optional, what I have done this time, I understood concepts well. Like whatever I had, before I used to read more books. I never focused on understanding concepts. This year, I've confined to my optional class notes and also basic books. I didn't even read Mohit Bhattacharya this year. I've read only class notes, and I tried to understand the concepts, how to relate. And I used to see previous year's question papers a lot, and I used to practice them. I used to show to my teacher, Ravi Kumar sir, public administration. It also helped me. But one thing what I have done in my optional paper in the exam is that I couldn't manage time well. That's the reason for 20 mark question and for 10 mark question in paper 1 I have written same content, same words. So it's better not to do that. Instead restrict your words in 10 marks and write more on 20 marks, because optional you have to score well. Anything else? Yeah, Madhuri will take over. Thank you. And
How did you approach paper 1, GS paper 1, which because it is mostly a static part.
yes.
Which one you focus more?
1 second, Madhuri. 1 second. She wants to ask about GS1. This year I got 108. GS2 I got 115. GS3 I got 120. GS4 88. For GS1, whatever I have studied for prelims this year, I am talking about, that helped me. But GS1, it's better to focus more on things which fetch you marks, like geography, society, modern history, then go to post-independent world if you have time, art and culture. So this analysis you have to do by yourself, how many questions you are getting and how many marks you can get. So based on that I focused like that. Basic books, there's no need to go like deep. Basic NCERT, modern history, Bipin Chandra, India struggle for independence. For post-independent NCERT, if you have time, some class notes. World history, like some any other notes. That would be sufficient. Fine, right? Thank you.
Attempt. So my first attempt, there was a mistake I was doing. What I used to do was start with 10 markers, because that's how the paper is generally placed. You get the 10 markers first. So I used to attempt the first section first, the fifth section next, and then go on to attempt 20, 15, 15. What I realized this time, I changed that order a bit. I used to attempt the 20, 15, 15 first and the 10 markers next. What I realized was I was writing similar quality 10 marker answers but spending little lesser time when I was doing the second way. So 20, 15, 15 will actually determine how well you score those questions, and the thing is they involve application of your mind. Choice also matters, because there is choice. How you choose those questions matters a lot, especially in subjects like geography. Anybody has geography as their optional. Okay, so especially in paper 2, what happens is the questions are really generic. I mean, probably any GS person also would feel like they can do very well at this paper. What becomes important then is in what questions can you show your optional knowledge, can you show your geographical sense. So you have to choose very well. So spend time on choosing that, write these answers very well. You already set an impression. The 10 markers you can manage in the end. I think 1 hour to 1 hour 10 minutes is an ideal time to be leaving for 10 questions. I think this sticks for other options as well, but my experience has been with geography, so I can tell you 1 hour to 1 hour 10 minutes on 10 markers. Rest time spend it on 20, 15, 15. It should be a very good investment according to me. Moving on, I had an experience where in my first attempt I scored very badly in almost all sections of the mains, in my optional, in my GS as well. I almost had 100 marks less than cutoff. So it shows that I have a writing problem. I have a issue with answer writing. And I realized that my biggest problem was not content, because I was competing at prelims level. Whenever I talked to my friends who were clearing mains also, I realized that I was on par with them in terms of the content I had, but still I was not able to convert it into marks. That is when I started seriously thinking about how to write answers in those 7-minute frames. Because what happens is in 7 minutes, after reading the question, you tend to blurt out whatever comes to your mind. And generally that is not structured. That is generally not very structured, and structured answers tend to get you more scores. So how to structure your answer, that would be my focus today. Generally people talk about IBC structure, like introduction, body and conclusion. But they don't tell you how to go about doing that, because 7 minutes is a challenge. How to get a good introduction, how to get a good body and how to get a good conclusion. Keep it as simple as possible. I used to do very complex things in my first attempt, like try to really come up with great introductions, try to leave some great conclusion behind, write quotes. All this is not needed. Actually, you waste time doing all of this. The goal is to write 20 decent answers. Every decent answer will fetch you 5 or 6 marks. And when you add these up, you end up with scores sounding like 110 and 120. So your goal should be to write 20 decent answers and attempt all the questions decently. So keep it as simple as possible. When I thought about an introduction, there are only 3 introductions possible, frankly. Introduction is of 3 kinds. The most common and the easiest one to go for is definition. Generally, your questions come with keywords when they ask about something, especially in questions of geography and economy. You are asked about a concept or an issue. Generally define that issue, that is good enough. That is for society questions also. Every question is about a theme. Let's say about globalization or about old age issues. So if you prepare some good definitions of these concepts, Sanskritization, that's a very common question that is regularly asked, or self-help groups. If you have a set of 30 or 40 good definitions that you can fall back onto, questions that are asked again and again, these can be your introductions straight away. You can start with them. If definitions don't work, the question is very generic, use the other 2 kinds. The next kind is facts. Let's say the question is about any scheme or a policy or a law that a government has brought out. Your Vision monthly booklets or your newspaper notes can have some facts about them. Especially these are useful in issues like Indian agriculture, where think about the irrigated area in the country. If you have a set of 100 facts on all papers, think about all papers. Especially for GS3, this is very useful. GS3, if you have questions on facts on economic development, the development indices of India, or the Indian performance in different indices, you know, HDI, what is our rank, you can start with these. Or you can use sustainable development goals, whatever, Indian performance in these. If you have certain facts that you can bank on, these are very easily available. Don't try to dig very deep. Just try to remember what you are seeing. Think in terms of numbers. Whenever you see a good number, write it down somewhere and keep reading these again and again. These can be your introductions. Or if all of this doesn't work, then the last option, this doesn't fail, this is context. Give a historical context of that issue. One very common question that was asked recently is, are governors misusing their powers? In these cases, definitions don't work, facts don't work, you can't figure out, these are individuals. So tell a story. Why is this question being asked? You can give them a context. This question is being asked because Uttarakhand, something happened in Uttarakhand, something happened in Goa, something happened somewhere else, Manipur. On that issue, what is happening? Why is this being asked? Well, let's say suppose there is a question on reservations and upper castes asking for reservations. You can context. This question is being posed in the context of the Jat agitation or the Kapu agitation that is happening. Give the context. Why is this being asked? This is introduction. You don't have to go beyond these 3 models for anything. Take any question, I can give you the introduction in these 3 modules. You start thinking. Keep it as simple as this. Try definition, fact, context in this order. I would prefer this order because relevance also comes in this order. Definition, it's almost relevant all of the times. Not facts, not context. Next, coming to body. Body has 2. One is points. The second is paragraphs. I invariably 80% of the time would go for points because it's easier to visualize, it's easier to paste the answer. If you've looked at previous papers of UPSC, you realize that almost 3/4 of the questions come in multiple questions. You have 2 or 3 subparts in a question. There is not one question, and as Maurya rightly pointed out, you have to focus equally on each part of the question. What happens when you write in terms of points is an answer is not an answer anymore. It is 12 to 15 points. So your goal is not to think of an answer, your goal is to think of 12 to 15 points. So when you know every answer is 12 to 15 points, you can divide easily. If there are 2 subparts to a question, you already know 6 in one, 7 or 8 in one, done. And what happens when you write in points is you force yourself to think multidimensionally. Every point has to be different. You can't be repeating yourself. You will, or Ideally, you shouldn't be repeating yourself. So every point you try to think of it in a new dimension. So you push yourself to think differently. That is useful. That will fetch you marks. And another big advantage of points is when you are dividing these when I talk about dividing these into sub questions, when you write in points, do have subheads about where you are breaking that answer into another points. A very common question in UPSC is critically analyze something. You can ask about, let's say, critically analyze the introduction of GST in the country. Critically analyze classically means write the pros and the cons. So you can divide that question quite easily into the pros of introducing GST, underline that. You have 6 points that are ready. The examiner knows you are answering 2 questions, 2 sub questions. It is very obvious for him, and that makes his correction easy, and you are likely to get more marks. These are a few things that you can adapt. Subheads are classic. Subheads are very useful in terms of marks fetching. The second is to break the monotony. When you are reading a paper, you assume you are correcting a paper. What will help you correct a paper? Subheads will help you correct a paper, right? It will become obvious that they are answering a question. The second thing that will help you correct a paper is flowcharts. Once a flowchart is there, and once you demonstrate to the examiner that I know this issue, I understand it, it becomes easier for him to correct. That is the whole idea. Make it easier for the examiner to see that you have presented the answer. Whatever ways possible, maps, flowcharts, subheads, again, underlines. Underline any fact that you mention, underline it. Any committee report that you can quote, underline it. All these show that you have an awareness about the issue, and it will help you scoring marks. Paragraphs is for those questions where you don't have content. If you have content that can fill 250 to 300 words, invariably I would say write in points. Only and only when you feel points are impeding your flow, you are not able to write, use paragraphs, and when you don't have content, write in paragraphs. Golden rule, when you don't have content, paragraphs, because in points it will become obvious that you don't have content. It will become very obvious because you will be repeating yourself, you will be writing the same thing again and again and again, and he'll know. The only way of not doing that is paragraphs. So in paragraphs also, what you can do is, one paragraph ideally should have only 1 or 2 ideas. If you say too many things in a single paragraph, it will become confusing. When you have too many ideas, write in points. When you have to repeat the same idea or elaborate on a single idea, write in paragraphs. It will look nice. Take my word for that. And the last is conclusion. Conclusion, again, 2 types. One type, safest conclusion, is way forward. For some questions, you can actually mention way forward and underline it as a subhead and write the conclusion explicitly. For questions, don't do that, just to maintain variety. Way forward, again, don't make the conclusion really big. It shouldn't feel like another paragraph. Even if you write conclusion in points, that's fine, but at the max it should only have 2 or 3 points, and it should have solid stuff. You should actually, if there is an issue that you're talking about, if there's pros or cons, let's say, for example, getting back to that GST question I was talking about, critically analyze GST, a good conclusion would be, what can we do to change, to address a few issues that we mentioned in the cons of GST. If you can answer that, you're closing that loop. You're creating a comprehensive write-up on this thing. So way forward is a very safe conclusion. For GS3, GS2, it's perfect. It's almost for every question you can write a way forward for in GS2 and GS3. GS1 and ethics, you might face a little issue writing way forwards because they're static questions, and for that the next thing is sum up. Whatever you have discussed in that write-up, just sum it up. A classic case of summing up would be, as per the reason stated above, my opinion is so and so, or I think that India is a so and so, something like that. Whatever you have written, sum it up. This is classically like the summing up in the essay also. Sometimes you said, because of all these points that I have made, I think this is my opinion, something like that. Or in geography or history, you could just say, this is the concept of dash dash dash. Just 2 lines, 2 or 3 lines, summing up, close. But never end an answer without a conclusion. disturbs continuity, you leave it out there, it will look very shabby. You can leave an answer without conclusion only when a way forward is asked in the question. It's like give suggestions to solve this issue. If that's a part of the question, then that's fine, you can leave it there. But in all other cases, at least use one of this type. Make an answer very simple. I think this is an engineer's approach to writing answers. Because I'm an engineer, I had to make it easy for myself, so I figured out this way to get things done. And this works. You will get marks if you write like this, and it will keep it simple. If you have creative ways of writing, don't disturb that, because some people are gifted with writing skills. I think this approach is not for them, but people who are struggling to make a good answer in 6-7 minutes, if you're really struggling to make it in time, you can use this to make your life a little easier. Yeah, that would be it. Okay. It's a very big topic in itself. I can come back one more day to talk about DF, if you don't mind.
Drawings what you numbering or arrows?
Your wish, doesn't matter. Again, numbers are psychologically nice if you have more points to make. If you have 7 or 8 points, write in numbers. If you have 4 or 5, use arrows. What? Approach. Yeah, I used to write case studies first and then get back to the... Again, there also classically, I think, writing the questions with bigger amount of marks helps when you write it first, because generally what you tend to do is, the first answers when you're writing, you're a little verbose, and then you realize the time is creeping upon you, the rest you speed it up. So classically, I would say if you have even the new pattern of UPSC, when there are 20 markers and 10 markers, I would suggest you approach 20 markers first, get them done comprehensively. 10 markers anyway, the time pressure will get you going. So you tend to chop off unwanted stuff from, yeah. I never did, but I don't know if you can, so. Anything else?
How did you write this case studies? Like you will involve the stakeholders, options, same?
Yeah, sometimes. When, see, stakeholders, not every question maybe. If it's explicitly asked, you have to write. But if it is not, then there's 6 questions, right? For 2-3 questions, try to write. For 2-3 questions, try to skip. Don't make them feel like they're reading the same thing again and again and again. If you can create variety, it will be nice. Because they tend to read it once together, right? And one more thing that I want to really stress is pay attention to grammar. It is very important when you're writing answers. It will look very shabby when you don't maintain grammar. I'm not talking about vocabulary. Your English doesn't have to be really beautiful. I mean, no adjectives, no verbs, all that not required. But minimum grammatical skills, yes. Pay attention to those pronouns when you use them, adverbs. Because you tend to miss out on these prepositions. Prepositions are like hell. People forget to write is, was, and you start framing answers. I understand it's the time pressure, but it is really important. This you have to focus on. And also, sometimes you start in first person, then shift to third person, and at the end of the answer you come into first person. All this not good. Maintain. If you're writing in first person, maintain it throughout the write-up. Finish it off. Then third person. So pay attention to these things also. Don't spend hours and hours on this, but when you're writing or when you're reading back your answer scripts, try to look once. Are you grammatically correct? Are you getting the spellings right, or are you doing too many? 1 or 2 acceptable. In that speed, you tend to mess up a few spellings, and that's fine. But if it's happening over and over again, it's better if you work on that a little. What about geography optional? Paper 2. For paper 2, I used to always look for questions where I could use my paper 1 knowledge, and I chose those kind of questions. Chose tough questions in paper 2. That would be my suggestion, because what happens when you choose easy questions is you can write a lengthy write-up, but everybody can. But when you choose tough questions, you can show that you have skills, and invariably a map per question. Map is the most preferable one. If you can't draw a map, draw a flow chart, but one diagram per paper, per question is like compulsory. Don't break that rule ever. Even if it is theoretical question, draw a flow chart and come. What else? Yeah, pretty much choose tough questions and choose a question where you can use your GS1 knowledge, and whenever you're making geography notes for paper 2, try to include current affairs, especially facts from current affairs. India book is a very good place that you can look for, especially those 3 or 4 chapters in between, industries, transport. You will have ready facts in the India yearbook. Just read that chapter, don't have to read the whole India yearbook, go back, just skim through that chapter, you'll get 7 or 8 good points, pick them out, write them in your notes and forget. Something like that.
For the of the approach modern history and post-independence, these two are very vast.
Post-independence India.
And modern history.
Oh, post-independence is not really vast. I mean, it depends upon the source you are using it from. If you start to read Chandra for post-Indian history, it's not required firstly. I mean, for once if you read that book, it's nice to get the knowledge, but never go back to Chandra Guha, especially in that prelims and mains ka beach period, never go back to that book, India after Gandhi. What you can do is there are a couple of good notes. Vision IS has one notes, and there is an insights link called Nitin Sangwan. Just type Nitin Sangwan notes insights, you will get a few links. There is a 60-page write-up on post-independence history, Indian history. That's good enough. If you read that, you can figure out answers by yourself. The second is modern India. Modern Indian history, the questions are getting a little creative and you have to be creative in your answers. There's no other way out. But a book won't help. If Bipan Chandra is the only book you'll have, but practice good test series. You will have good quality questions coming your way, or practice previous question papers so that you can expose yourself. Ma'am was talking about one very peculiar question that Gandhi and Subash and that was a really peculiar question. You can't expect and prepare for these kind of questions. You can only innovate within the exam hall. And to get that, there is only one way to do: practice. Take previous papers, write. Take test series papers, write. You will start developing ways of writing answers. World history. Again, world history, it's very important that you pick out a good source or write notes by yourself. Write notes by yourself is slightly difficult. So I used vision notes for world history. And world history, every topic is not equally important. Look at because if you look at the questions from 2 years, the 2016 paper and 2017 paper, you prepare, you don't prepare, I don't think it would have made a difference. The Malaya Peninsula question and the African colonialism question, just because somebody prepared for world history, they were not prepared for these kind of questions. So the, the marks to the preparation ratio is not really great for world history. So don't delve deeper. Have a good command on basic things: American Civil War, then the French Revolution, the World War I, the World War II, the Cold War, pretty much Napoleon and rise of Napoleon. And hardly, there's 6-7 big subheads that questions keep coming from. If you can work on these more, that should be good enough. The interim issues are not really asked, or even if they're asked, anybody is not prepared.
What about world geography?
I am probably a bad person to ask. Geography optional. You want to take this question? How to prepare world geography?
World geography for GS. For general studies, you can prepare an NCRT. We have 6 to 12. You can hear me, right? She can hear me. NCRT is 6 to 10. You have old NCRT. You can take 11 and 12 resources. That is sufficient.
Maurya.
Is very good.
Video. Okay. It's absurd.
So prepare 11th and 12th whole NCRT. That would be sufficient. GC.
Anything else?
We use flowcharts in CS thing. It's going to end up like half page or 3/4 of the page. So it will look like a bigger. So like a
I didn't get your question. I mean the rest of the page. Huh?
Flowchart, if you use flowchart, it will look like middle part of the page. So it will look like empty.
Oh, try to, cut it. I mean, if this is a paper, what I used to do, at least for geography, is this is the paper. You can draw a box somewhere here and draw that flowchart in there and write here. Just draw a box, don't leave it out there somewhere. If you can draw an outline, pen only, draw an outline and name it. Flowchart depicting this something, and always label your diagrams. It should be basic. Compulsorily label your diagrams. Never leave a map out there somewhere to understand what is that map saying. Try to say that. If you're pointing out some things, just a map depicting so and so. It will just take you 10 seconds, but it will help. For a person reading, it makes sense. For you, it might be obvious, but for somebody who's reading, it is not obvious. So always label your diagrams, even if it is a flowchart or a map or a timeline, whatever, name it. Makes sense. Quotes? Not exactly in GS, maybe a little in essay and a little in ethics. But I didn't find many avenues to use it elsewhere. It's very little. Maybe a little in governance, maybe, but I didn't. But you can use it in governance if you want to. What else? And how many of you have attempted a full 3-hour length test paper? How many are going to write mains this year? Please do write 3-hour length test papers. You might feel like you are writing 7 questions in 1 hour and that is sufficient, but you can't do into 3. Your body doesn't work like that. You can't time it like that. So at least before you get into that exam hall, I would insist on 10 full length test papers. You sit at your home, right? You go to some test series, right? You go to some location, right? Doesn't matter. Sit for 3 hours and see if you can time questions in that. That is the only way you can create performance there. And if you can, I would insist in doing that also. Try writing 2 papers in a day once, at least once. If you can do more, it will be nice. But it will show you what you need in the final examination. It is nice that this year you are getting a break for the optional, but still GS1, GS2, GS3, GS4, writing 4 of them in 2 days is a big task in itself. And at least try to expose yourself once to that experience. If not, you might get fatigued there, or you'll understand the challenge before you go in there. That is something that I would really like to insist on. Write 3-hour tests. As many as possible. Write it with preparation, but do write 3-hour tests, and seriously. I mean, if you don't know a question, you can't stop and check and write. No that kind of business. Whatever you know, you write 3 hours, and see to it that at least 2 or 3 papers are optional papers, because timing an optional paper is a very different challenge than timing a GS paper. Especially because of the choice, that is one thing, or shifting between the 20, 15, 10, or in case of geography, map pointing. So these are all different challenges that you have within the exam hall. See to it that you have practice in a 3-hour format, in a proper exam hall format where you don't move. You sit there for 3 hours, give the exam and then go. See to it that you do this.
Madam, regarding the qualifying papers, English and the regional language, what should be done for that? Is there any separate preparation or some time has to be allotted, or you can just go and write?
See, it depends on your comfort with the language per se. English, I think, should be doable for everybody who's writing in English medium. Most of you are writing in English medium, right? No? There are a few. So if you're writing in English medium, English shouldn't be a big issue. Your comprehensions, compositions, all of that pretty much you can deal with. If you're from some other medium and you're writing English, English requires practice, especially the second part of the paper where they check grammar and the rest of the other things. Do some practice and go. for the compulsory language paper, I mean your regional language paper, try to, on the UPSC website, you will have archives of papers. Go and download the last 4 or 5 years papers and try to solve them, at least the second part of it. There are 4 or 5 sections that you have. One is the essay, the composition. Then you have a comprehension. Then you have English to your language translation, your language to English translations, and then you have pre-C writing. And the next part is the grammar. Grammar is the part where you score a lot of your marks. So try to attempt at least on 4 or 5 papers this grammar section and see how you are performing. If you are performing decently, don't worry. And especially when you are writing compositions, you need a flow in that language. The best way to get a flow is to read newspapers. At least 7 or 8 days before that exam, keep reading the regional newspaper to get the terminology and to it'll rehash your memory a bit.
Human geography, had any notes?
Yeah, I did. For every subhead I have notes. I do. It's nice if you can. I mean, it'll help when you're writing the paper. If you have a write-up on everything, it'll help recall, it'll help revision. So, Dikshit, my major book was Dikshit. Apart from that, I used Majid Hussain to a certain extent. Yeah. For perspectives, there is this notes by Prajit. You can write the name. It's on Forum IS. Pragitnair. Prajit Nair. Check out his notes. They are nice. They're in a question answer format almost. So they're nice.
Science and technology.
Again, bad person. Didn't prepare anything except current affairs. Okay.
Pattern. And కొంచెం అర్థమైందా మెయిన్స్ హౌ టు ట్యాకిల్ సో నౌ I gave 2-3 questions. I will give answers to these questions today. Tomorrow onwards, what I will do, I will give question, I will give 5 minutes time, you have to write bullet points and I will give answer. Tomorrow onwards you have to write. Today I will give you a question and also answer for the questions which I have told. The question which I gave is, the basic structure theory is dynamic but not static. The basic structure doctrine is dynamic but not static. Discuss. So they asked you to discuss with examples that it is dynamic but not static. Dynamic means keeps on changing. Okay. This question, see how to handle. Basic structure means the fundamental principles or core values of the constitution. Basic structure means the fundamental principles or core values of the constitution. The term basic structure is not mentioned in the Indian constitution. Actually, I want to start this answer with the term basic structure is not mentioned in the Indian constitution, but I have not started like this because remember, we should never start answer with a passive, pessimistic or negative note. Though it is right, though it is correct, though it is right, though it is correct, I want to start this, the term basic structure is not mentioned, but what I have done, what I have given, basic structure means core principles or fundamental values. I have not used the word, it is not there in the Indian constitution in the first sentence. Just remember this difference. ఎప్పుడు కూడా ఫస్ట్ సెంటెన్స్ నెగిటివ్ సెంటెన్స్ రాయొద్దు, నిరాశగా రాయకూడదు. ఫస్ట్ సెంటెన్స్ కొంచెం మంచిగా రాయాలన్నమాట. సో ద టర్మ్ బేసిక్ స్ట్రక్చర్ మీన్స్ ద కోర్ వాల్యూస్ ఆర్ ఫండమెంటల్ వాల్యూస్ ఆఫ్ ద Indian constitution and of the any constitution, and the term basic structure is not mentioned in the constitution. It is a judicially evolved doctrine. Basic structure is a judicially evolved doctrine. Judicially evolved doctrine. In India, in Keshavananda Bharati versus State of Kerala, 1973. In India, in Keshavananda Bharati versus State of Kerala, 1973. The term basic structure was used, and Keshavananda Bharati case is also called as basic structure doctrine case. Keshavananda Bharati case is also called as basic structure doctrine case. This is the first paragraph. Second paragraph. In Keshavananda Bharati case, they have given some examples what is basic structure. As the right to amend the constitution does not mean the right to abrogate the constitution. The right to amend the constitution does not mean the right to abrogate the constitution. That means Parliament is given the right to amend the constitution, but Parliament is not empowered to abrogate the constitution. Parliament have the right to amend the constitution. Parliament have no right to abrogate the constitution. The Parliament should not touch the basic values of the constitution. That's called basic structure theory, and this theory keeps on improving, changing, because in Keshavananda Bharati case the judges told, if you fix these points as basic structure, it will become a watertight compartment. The basic structure doctrine is not a watertight compartment. It keeps on evolving by case. Example, in Keshavananda Bharati case they gave some illustrations like supremacy of the constitution, secularism, etc. the basic structures. Supremacy of the constitution, secular character of the state, supremacy of the constitution, secular character of the state, etc. the basic structures, etc. the basic structures. In Indira Gandhi versus Raj Narayan case, rule of law, free and fair elections are the basic structure. In Indira Gandhi versus Raj Narayan, 1975, rule of law, free and fair elections is basic structure. In Minerva Mills versus Union of India, in Minerva Mills versus Union of India, 1980, Minerva Mills versus Union of India, 1980, judicial review, harmonious relationship between, one is judicial review, second is harmonious relationship between fundamental rights and directive principles is considered as basic structure. Harmonious relationship between fundamental rights and directive principles is considered as basic structure. In S.R. Bommai case, in S.R. Bommai versus Union of India, 1994, secularism is considered as basic structure of Indian Constitution. Secularism is considered as basic structure of Indian Constitution. So the conclusion sentence should be, by case by case, the basic structure doctrine is evolving. By case, the basic structure doctrine is evolving. Exactly, this is a power packed answer. Exactly, you should write. And you should write, if court fixes only these matters are basic structures, then rest of the things can be amended by the Parliament. So in the future times, in order to protect the core values of the Constitution, the basic structure doctrine should be dynamic but not static. The basic structure doctrine should be dynamic but not static. This is the answer for the question. The basic structure doctrine is dynamic but not static. Done? This is how you have to handle a question in polity. Coming to a question in ethics.
Can we say fundamental rights are given new meanings by the court? So fundamental rights are also evolving. For example, right to privacy is being considered
No, don't read it like that. Never. See, in answer there will be a key before the examiner. Don't write remote connections. There will be a key. So there will be 5-6 key points. The examiner will see whether you have addressed the points or not. Examiner will not see your extraneous knowledge, some remote connections.
And the thing is, Constitution is a living document. Like
That you can write. That you can relate. As Constitution is a living document, the life of the Constitution should be beyond ages, beyond generations. So certain basic things should keep on evolving. That sentence you can add if you want. Okay, next I'll give an ethics question and answer, how to write a model. What is the utility of emotional intelligence in administration? What is the utility of emotional intelligence in administration? And what are the challenges associated with it? What are the challenges associated with its implementation in administration? What are the challenges associated with it? This is a question and answer. See, emotional intelligence in administration means not only understanding, channelizing and managing our own emotions, but also the emotions of the other people which we deal. Emotional intelligence in administration means not only understanding, managing, channelizing our own emotions, but also dealing with the emotions, channelizing the emotions with the people with whom we have official relations or some relations in administration. This is called emotional intelligence. This should be the first sentence of your answer. Okay. Of late, emotional intelligence is recognized as one of the important tools in effective administration. Of late, emotional intelligence is recognized as one of the important tools in administration. A is also called as social intelligence or social skill. Emotional intelligence is also called as social intelligence or social skill. Emotional intelligence anna, social intelligence anna, social skills anna okate. EI or social intelligence or social skill is one and the same. Next subheading, utility of emotional intelligence in administration. You have to give a subheading, utility of emotional intelligence in administration. In that first point, work will be a joy. Work will be a joy. Second, positive attitude. Positive attitude. Third, Esprit de Corps. ESPIRIT. Esprit DEDCORPS. Esprit de Corps. ESPIRIT. Esprit DEDCORPS means team spirit. Esprit de Corps means team spirit. Next, work with empathy. Empathy. So understanding each other's sensitivity is called empathy. You should use this word called empathy. Work with empathy. EMPATHY. Work with empathy. Next thing, there will be credibility and trust between people and the government and between employer and employee. There will be a credibility and trust. Credibility and trust building. Next, effectiveness and efficiency in work. Effectiveness and efficiency in work. Next, when you are emotionally intelligent, you will be more objective and less subjective. The employee will be more objective and less subjective. More objective and less subjective. And next, here you should write few points like out of box solutions. When you are emotionally intelligent in administration, you can bring innovations, creativity, out of box solutions. Innovations, creativity, out of box solutions. And and image of the government service will increase. Image of the government service will increase. These are all the utility of emotional intelligence in administration. Utility of emotional intelligence in administration. You should give one example. A hungry man did not get his PDS on time. A man who is poor and hungry, he does not get his PDS on time, the food on time, his food grains on time. He shouted at the officer. The officer should not retaliate him. He should understand his point. The officer should not retaliate him. He should understand his point. In ethics, if you see toppers' answer sheets, examples will be very simple, very normal, but for everything they will write an example. Simple example. See, a hungry old lady is starving. She is starving, and what happened? She does not get food grains on time under Annapurna Yojana or some food security program. She shouted on the officer responsible for that. You are the officer. Will you retaliate? No. That simple example you should give. Next subheading, challenges of using emotional intelligence in administration. Challenges in using EI in administration. This is the next subheading. First challenge. Government servants are not trained psychiatrists. Government servants are not trained psychologists. They are not trained. They cannot use EI all the time. They are not trained. They cannot use EI all the time. First point. Second point. Already government servants are overburdened with work. Even though if they sit 24/7, sometimes even though if they sit 24/7, they cannot complete their entire task. And next is, government servants, if they are moved by EI all the time, if they are integrated with the emotional intelligence all the time, they will be moved by subjectivity. They will be carried by subjectivity. And next point, see, emotional intelligence and bookish knowledge of emotional intelligence is different, and real time emotional intelligence is different. You may test emotional intelligence in ethics paper, but emotional intelligence in the real time situation is very different. EI in the real time situation is very different. This also you have to add. EI in the real time situation is very different. And the next point here is, see, in the modern day administration, most of the relations are online. Most of the relations are virtual. In the government offices, we are using LAN, we are using intercom. So, one-to-one interaction is very remote. When one-to-one interaction is very remote, how can you use emotional intelligence? When one-to-one interaction is very remote, how can you use emotional intelligence all the time? And the last but not the least, the most important point, and the most important point here is, emotional intelligence, people might portray that they have different emotion outside, and they might have different emotion from within. I can show off that I am angry. I can show off that I am in sorrow mode. Really, I may not be so. So, no one in the modern times, no one, not even a devil, in the modern times, no one, not even a devil, can enter into human mind and can detect actually what is transpiring in the human mind. No one, not even a devil, can enter into human mind and can detect what is transpiring in the human mind. So, I have addressed two parts of the question. First part is utility of EI in administration. Second part is challenges. and I have written a very good challenge at the end. No one, not even a devil, can enter into human mind and can detect. No one, not even a devil, can enter into human mind and can detect what is actually transpiring in the human mind. So here I have to write a conclusion sentence. I should not stop here. I have to give a conclusion sentence. You know what conclusion I should write? Though there are challenges in the implementation of EI in administration, though there are challenges in the implementation of EI in administration, compared to its utility, compared to its utility, challenges are microscopic. Challenges are microscopic. Okay. We can maximize the utility of EI. We can maximize the utility of EI in administration. We can maximize the utility of EI in administration by minimizing the challenges. Understood? This is the question and this is the answer. Most of you have written mains last year. How many of you have actually followed this method while writing ethics paper? This is really important. You should address each part of the question. You should give an introduction, you should give a conclusion, you should give 1 or 2 examples. If they ask examples, you should give 3 examples. If they don't ask examples, at least 1 example. Okay. What I will do, every day I will select 2 questions from each domain. GS1, GS2, GS3, GS4. I will make you to write and I will teach you the answer like this. Okay. 1 month continuously we will do this practice. Conduct exams to you. If you do this every day, there will be lot of improvement in your answer writing. But every day we will do. Every day I will select 10 questions which are important. This. So for example, tomorrow the questions which we are going to discuss. Role of NGOs in society. Tomorrow's topics. If you want, you can read and come. Otherwise also you can write. Role of NGOs in society. Relevance of Shanghai Cooperation Organization to India. Relevance of Shanghai Cooperation Organization to India. First is role of NGOs in the Indian society. Second is relevance of Shanghai Cooperation Organization to India. Third is how far bad bank is feasible in India to solve the problems of NPS. How far bad bank is feasible in India to solve the problem of NPS. The fourth question is attitude behavior relationship in ethics. What is the relationship between attitude and behavior? What is the relationship between attitude and behavior? The fifth question is tomorrow we will discuss essay writing. First thing we will discuss entire essay writings. How to write an essay. I will give 2-3 model essays. I will discuss 2-3 model essays. Okay. Tomorrow anyhow I have essay writing discussion for exam also for the students who wrote exam. Along with that I will give entire essay discussion to you tomorrow 2 to 4. How to write general essay and I will discuss 2-3 essays. Minimum 2-3 essays నేను discuss చేస్తాను. Topic ఇచ్చి నేను చెప్తాను ఏ పాయింట్స్ ఎలా కవర్ చేయాలి. Okay. Except Sunday we will have this class for the next 1 month. Sundays మాత్రం ఉండవు. Any holiday I will announce beforehand and give names and phone numbers so that we will create a WhatsApp group. We will have a WhatsApp group and any communication it will be through any questions and answers we will do it through WhatsApp group. Okay, done? So tomorrow same time first we will start with essay discussion then these questions. Done? So Do you think this class is a little bit useful for? And tomorrow also we'll be in the same mode. And for next 1 month, you will be in the same mode. And from tomorrow, day after tomorrow onwards, I will make you to work. Okay? Done? So, thank you. We'll meet tomorrow.